Hey, what's up? I know everyone here likes some good old battle of wits, mind games and strategy anime, and probably every one of you may have watched Death Note and Code Geass. And I know you want to watch something like that, and don't worry because Vrexasama has got you covered. Before the suggestions begin, I would like to clear that psychological is a really vast genre and it doesn't only cover the likes of Death Note, but it's not necessary to have intense mind games. Usually it also means that the plot has a lot of mind fuck in it. So I would be dividing this into some subcategories and mainly focusing on the strategy part of it. So let's go! The first anime I would recommend is Akagi, and trust me, the art style and the narration may seem a bit unusual at first, but once you are used to it, you'll absolutely love the series. The series revolves around the game of Mahjong. So Mahjong is a game which is played casually in Japan by normal people but also played by the underground gamblers. And this guy named Shigeru Akagi at only 13 years old comes and wrecks the whole gambling world by his pure intellectual prowess and also because he doesn't fear death. I know you have to understand the game of Mahjong, but once you do, oh boy, this series may have the best mind games and strategy you may have ever seen. And of course, I can't forget to mention Kaiji in the same breath as Akagi. Yes, it looks a lot similar, but they have different plots. Even though both deal with gambling games and strategies, I would like to say that Kaiji is easier to get into once you have accepted its over-dramatic style of narration. Atari! But man, this guy Kaiji, when forced to gamble to repay his friend's loan back, comes with such brilliant strategies is actually awesome to watch. And it's not only about the game, but gambling is also about playing with the person's mind as a whole. And man, that over-dramatic style of narration makes it even more better. The show often portrays how Kaiji is so screwed that he is almost going to die because of his decisions, but still every time he manages to get away by thinking some badass strategy. The next anime and the most famous one out of these will be Kakegurui. The plot goes something like this. There is a elite academy where all these rich kids are there, and apparently gambling is the means by which they decide many major things like who will be whose slave and all. But our protagonist Jabame Yumeko is a compulsive gambler and also really good at it. The good thing about this series is that it showcases so many different and unique games which are really easy to grasp, but for winning them you would need some serious intellect than just some plain luck. Another good is that, well, Jabame is really freaking hot. Is that it's amazing animation. The way they have used the exaggeration principle to show the intensity of the situation is commendable. So yeah, that's probably it for the mind games, and now comes the battle of which genre. This is the genre where Death Note and Code Geass would fall because the plot isn't focused in games and more on real world tactics. The first anime which I'm going to recommend is One Outs, and I assume that this has been thrown into your face a couple of times whenever you try to Google psychological anime like Death Note or something like that, but there is a good reason why this anime is so well regarded. Now I know what you may say.
But Varun, you said that this subcategory will not revolve around games and One Out is a baseball anime, so
All I'm going to reply is just watch it and you'll understand that baseball is just a cover. The main character, Tokuichi Toya, actually cripples his opponents mentally. I sometimes do feel he would also win against Light Yagami if they are ever in a mental battle, but that's a discussion for another day. Tokuchi's well-written character and his way of thinking and his intellect, oh my god, is what makes this anime so good. Next comes The Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Yes, this anime looks super old, but don't let that deceive you. The animation is in fact good. The scale of this anime is huge, and you would have that figured out by now that it spans across the whole freaking galaxy. If you like Code Geass, then this anime is something similar to that, but I would say it's really political, like hardcore politics. And while there is no question that the strategies used in politics are great, but if you are not into that, then you can probably steer away from this one. But still, the clever tactics used by Yang to win despite being at such a heavy disadvantage feels satisfying to watch. On the list next comes The Promised Neverland. Well, this anime is just straight up amazing. I would like to clarify that don't judge it because there are kids. These kids are as smart as it gets. I would try my best to describe it but also not spoil it at the same time. But basically, all these kids in the orphanage are destined to die at some point, and these three, the main characters, take up in their hands to save everyone. This anime has almost zero fights and everything is just pure battle of wits. It's going to hook almost any anime watcher, and I would say just give it a try. The next anime, with not so huge scales but more on a personal level which I liked, was Erased, or also known as Bokudake ga Inai Machi. Yes, I don't know how that roughly translates to Erased, but never mind. Erased follows a guy named Satoru who somehow has an ability called Revival, which allows him to go back in time, and he spawns into his younger self before some really major life-threatening incidents occur. And then he has a chance to prevent all of them, and thus leading him to find the culprit. Good thing about this anime is that it really makes you feel the situation despite the stakes being not so huge, and it's also just 12 episodes. The list probably ends here because I won't include the most obvious ones like Fate Zero, No Game No Life and Monster, but yes, there are some honorable mentions. First honorable mention is Danganronpa. If you are into some detective shit and you like people using their brains to figure out who's the killer, then Danganronpa is really good for you. The only drawback to this anime is the characters. They are barely 16-year-old and the anime doesn't really make you relate with the threat of the battle royale game which is played. But the murder strategies and also the catch the criminal games are really unpredictable and unique. Next mention is Terror in Resonance. This anime is unique. The reason it is not up there is because, well, the intense strategy part dies off in some episodes and then it just becomes plain emotional. But that doesn't make this anime bad, and to be honest, it's one of my favorite animes. Now comes Ergo Proxy and also Psycho Pass. Both of these are really similar, even though Psycho Pass has more strategy to it, but in my opinion, Ergo Proxy wins in the overall aspect. The way they have depicted the dystopian future, the darkness of that world, the execution is a little better than Psycho Pass, but again, that's my personal opinion. And if you want to watch some awesome cyberpunk mind game strategies, then there is nothing better than Psycho Pass. So I guess the list ends here, and if you want something more like this, then I'll get it.